The Discovery, the Galactic Council Station, floated quietly above the glowing surface of the red gas giant known as Varnos Prime. Inside the station, thousands of delegates from different alien races had gathered in the main hall. It was a circular room filled with curved chairs, wide screens, and a giant hologram projector in the center. Representatives from over 50 planets were present. Their faces showed curiosity, confusion, and silent wonder. A new species had joined the galactic fold, and their data was about to be revealed. On the platform stood Lenak, a senior biologist from the Eric species, known for his sharp mind and long memory. Lenak adjusted the data tablet in his hand, then gestured toward the hologram screen. The lights dimmed and a rotating image of a human male and female appeared in the center. "We welcome humans to the council," Lenak began, voice calm and clear. "This session will cover their physical capabilities, biological systems, and survival traits." The hall remained silent as the presentation began. The first part spoke about Earth, the human homeworld. It showed a planet filled with oceans, storms, deserts, mountains, and many forms of life. Despite the challenges, humans had built large cities, crossed continents, and even traveled into space using machines of fire and metal. Lenak continued explaining the structure of the human body, the nervous system, the muscle layers, the bones, and the flexibility of the spine. Many delegates looked impressed, some took notes while others blinked in disbelief. Then, the section on human reproduction began. On the screen, a data chart flashed showing hormonal cycles, fertility rates, and something called endurance. Lenak paused for a moment, checking the data again, unsure if there had been a mistake. According to the information gathered from Earth sources, humans are capable of mating not once a season, not once a year, but every day if desired. Gasps and mechanical clicks echoed across the room. A delegate from the Lithan species, who required 3 years of preparation for a single reproductive attempt, dropped his data scroll. A member of the glass-boned Pharaoh's clan looked around nervously, as if unsure whether this was science or comedy. Lenak cleared his throat and continued, "I repeat, daily mating is biologically possible for humans, without lasting injury, without system breakdown, and without long recovery." Timia delegate raised a glowing hand from the upper balcony. It was Jorah from the ice world of Trolleys, whose species reproduced once every 200 cycles under a moon eclipse. "Are you saying their bodies do not require rest cycles between bonding attempts?" she asked, her voice full of doubt. Lenak tapped his tablet again. "I am not only saying it, I am showing it. The data includes field recordings, medical research, and cultural behavior logs. Humans possess a system that allows them to rebuild energy, quickly restore hormones, manage mental balance, and even form strong emotional bonds during this process." Murmurs followed. Several delegates leaned forward, staring at the screen as if it held some ancient mystery. A few started whispering to each other in their native tongues. This was not just about biology anymore. It was about fear, admiration, confusion, and a growing sense of danger. Tom, the human ambassador, sat calmly in his seat. He wore a simple gray jacket and watched the reactions without much expression. He had expected this. Every time the reproductive data was shared with other species, the result was the same. A green-skinned delegate named Rello stood up. His voice was loud and clear. "We understand their strength in battle. We understand their will to survive, but this is something beyond logic." "You mean to say they have no cooldown period, no system overload, no ritual cycle?" Tom stood slowly, hands behind his back, and walked to the center of the room. All eyes turned to him. "We are not machines," he said firmly. "Our biology works with rhythm, but it is not bound by one. We rest when we need to, we act when we want to. Our bodies can recover, our minds can choose. Our system is not a flaw, it is a feature." He looked around the room. "You think this is strange, but to us it is normal. It is not about obsession, it is about endurance. Our kind did not survive ice ages, deserts, wild beasts, and wars because we were the strongest. We survived because we could keep going when others stopped." The silence in the hall deepened. No one interrupted. Even Lenik lowered his head for a moment, as if reflecting on something larger than science. Tom stepped back into his place without saying more. Later that day, across the council station, rumors began to spread faster than light. Soldiers, engineers, and scholars gathered in small groups, speaking in hushed voices. A group of mechanical species tried to simulate the human mating cycle in their labs, but failed to replicate the needed energy patterns. A reptilian species from the storm world of Cole tried to understand the emotional part, but got stuck on the concept of connection. Beyond function, more research requests came in. More tests were scheduled. But the truth remained: humans had changed the way the galaxy viewed life. Not with weapons, not with politics, but with the raw, unstoppable truth of their own biology. And this was only the beginning. The shock was real. Questions had just begun. The galaxy had no idea what else was coming. Interrogation and awe after the shocking discovery about human biology, the Galactic Council found itself in a state of quiet unrest. News traveled across the space station like fire through dry grass. Cafeterias, research halls, security units, and even quiet meditation zones buzzed with talk of the strange trait that humans carried inside them. Not every species accepted the truth easily. Some doubted the science, others questioned the purpose. A few believed it was a trick, perhaps an illusion made to give humans an unfair image of superiority. The council decided there was only one way to end the growing debate. A direct session with the human representative was arranged, and all members were invited to ask questions without limits. Meeting took place inside the inner dome, a smaller chamber designed for focused discussion. The walls were lined with glowing symbols of trust and order. Floating orbs of soft light kept the space bright and calm. Around the central seat sat Tom, the human ambassador. He looked rested, calm, and completely unshaken by the attention he had drawn. Across from him sat researchers, warriors, historians, and thinkers of many shapes, sizes, and colors. Some had wings, some had fur, some had smooth, glowing skin like glass, and others had no visible faces. A researcher named Varn stepped forward first. His species came from a deep ocean world where reproduction involved a long ritual under extreme pressure and rare chemicals. He held a glass device in his hand and spoke with a voice like water running over stone. Please explain how your people manage such constant readiness, without damage, without loss of control, without system fatigue. Tom leaned back, his hands resting on the chair's arms. He thought for a moment before answering. Human systems are built around balance and repair. Our bodies are not designed to burn fast and die out. They are designed to recover and try again. Our cells rebuild fast, our minds adjust, our muscles can handle stress and return to normal. Another delegate leaned in, eyes sharp and glowing red. Her name was Mira, from a race known for strict control over emotion. Do you mean this behavior is purely instinct, or is it chosen? Tom smiled and answered, both. We do have instinct, but we also have thought. Feeling is part of our system, but choice is stronger. Sometimes we bond for survival, sometimes for love, sometimes just for comfort. A quiet buzz filled the room. The idea of bonding by choice was strange to many species. For some, reproduction was a task, not a connection. For others, it was a rare duty handled with care, fear, or even pain. A warrior from the mountain world of Greth slammed his metal fist against the bench, causing a short hum of power to ripple through his armor. And you suffer no pain, no side effects, no weakening of the body. Tom looked him in the eye and replied, weakness comes from not adapting. Pain is real, but it does not stop us. We learn to move through it. Our bodies respond, our minds follow. Our drive remains. At the edge of the room, Lenik listened quietly, taking notes. He had studied hundreds of species across 50 systems, but none had shocked him like the humans. Their ability to continue without pause was not just physical, it was deeply woven into everything they were. A delegate named Philo, with skin like shifting mist, asked a strange question. If your people are this resilient in something as complex as mating, then what limits do you have? What stops you from reaching beyond the stars before anyone else? Tom paused again before answering. Limits are real, but we do not fear them. We face them. We break them if we can. We rest if we must, but we always try again. That is our way. The room fell silent. Even those who doubted now saw that the human trait was not only about the act itself, but about something larger, something woven into the heart of their kind one. Delegate stood slowly and spoke with a voice like falling glass. Your strength frightens us, not because it is violent, but because it is endless. If your kind can connect this deeply and still rise each day with purpose, what else are you hiding beneath your skin? Tom did not reply right away. He looked around the room, meeting every gaze with calm. We hide nothing, he said at last. But not everything can be seen in numbers or charts. Some things must be lived to be understood. After the session, many delegates walked away in silence. Some went back to their labs. Others gathered in groups to debate what they had heard. A few stared out into the stars, wondering what kind of future awaited the galaxy now that such a species had entered the council. That night across the station, a message appeared on many private networks. No one claimed to send it, but its words echoed like prophecy. They are not the strongest, they are not the fastest, but they are the ones who never stop. The story of human biology had become something more. A sign, a warning, a reason to rethink everything. And deep inside the hidden corners of the station, some species had begun to whisper a new idea. What if this trait could be copied? What if their power could be taken? What if humans were not a marvel, but a threat? Experiment and error weeks passed after the council meeting, but the shock remained alive inside every research hall, command post, and private chamber across the Galactic Council station. The discovery about human biology had spread far beyond the original audience. Now even distant colonies and outer rim stations were discussing the strange truth about humans. Some called it nature's blessing. Some called it dangerous design. Others simply could not believe that such a thing was real. But in the deep zones of the station, far from the council chambers, a different kind of activity had begun. Inside cold labs filled with machines and blinking lights, scientists from several species had started their work. Their goal was clear: understand the secret behind human endurance, and if possible copy it. The first attempt came from the Virex, who had long explored biomodification. They selected one of their own, a volunteer named Selin, who agreed to undergo hormonal transformation based on the human pattern. Synthetic glands were implanted, new blood formulas injected, and artificial nerve boosters installed. For the first 2 cycles, Selin showed signs of increased energy, stronger emotional response, and faster cell repair. The team celebrated early success, but by the 3rd cycle everything began to fall apart. Selin's body could not hold the rhythm of constant drive. His temperature rose, his bones became unstable, and his mental state slipped into chaos. He had to be placed in suspension to stop complete collapse. The failure was noted, but the idea refused to die. Next came the efforts from the Morcarii, a silicon-based species who believed in machine integration. They attempted to build a hybrid organism, part machine, part biological, that followed the same cycle as human bonding. The project was ambitious and expensive. The prototype, called Unit 7, was built with high-density tissue, flexible joints, and emotion processors. It was fed human behavioral data and placed in social simulations. For a short time the unit performed well. It spoke like a human, moved like a human, and reacted with soft emotional responses. But when exposed to prolonged bonding attempts, something strange occurred. The emotion processors began to loop, the memory banks flooded, and the core overheated. The unit melted in front of the team, sparking panic and silence. Reports of the failure were kept secret from the Council. A third effort came from a mixed group of scholars and energy healers who believed the human trait was not biological alone, but tied to spirit or life force. They began experiments on energy flow, body movement, and willpower training, using volunteers from peaceful species. The mental exhaustion was too strong. The volunteers could not keep the rhythm. The body refused to follow the mind. The connection broke after only a few cycles, and the trials were ended quietly. Meanwhile, on the upper decks, humans continued their daily life without notice of the chaos below. Some trained in the gym, some worked in engineering, some walked with their partners hand in hand, talking, laughing, or simply resting together. Had no idea how deeply the galaxy had become obsessed with their Jelinek, the researcher who first presented the human data, received a secret message from one of the failed labs. He reviewed the notes, the body scans, the stress levels, and the mental breakdown records. Then he sat alone for a long time, thinking. He wrote a simple line in his journal there. Strength is not in the act, but in the purpose behind it. Across the station, whispers turned into action. A group of traders began collecting human blood samples, clothing, skin cells, and behavior recordings, offering high prices in underground markets. Black rooms were filled with screens showing human couples bonding, playing, laughing, and recovering. Without pause, a new belief started spreading. A belief that, if one could crack the secret of this endurance, then one could build the perfect warrior, the perfect worker, the perfect survivor. But there was a Costa species from the edge of the dark zone tried one final experiment. They captured a human without permission and attempted to unlock the trait using forced analysis and aggressive scans. The result was disaster. The human resisted not with violence, but with calm refusal. His vitals remained steady, his mind stayed sharp, and even under stress his body showed no signs of collapse. He was released before the council found out. But the story traveled fast. Even when tested, even when broken, even when pushed to the edge, the human system held strong. More questions rose. Why them? What had Earth done to shape this kind of life? Some believed it was the changing climates of Earth that built such adaptability. Others said it was the endless conflict and rebuilding of history. Some said it was love, pain, loss, and hope all mixed together into something no other species could fully understand. The answer remained unclear, but one truth was becoming certain. Was not something that could be copied with wires, chemicals, or rituals. This was something old, something earned, something lived, and the more the galaxy tried to take it, the more they began to fear it. In the quiet chambers of council leaders, plans were being drawn. Some wanted to study humans with respect. Others wanted to control them before it was too late. For the first time, the galaxy was not sure if humans were a mystery to admire or a power to contain. Somewhere in the heart of the station, Tom stood by the window, watching the stars, unaware of the silent war his kind had started just by being what they were, the threat inside the high council chambers. The air was colder than usual. Delegates from many worlds had gathered once again, but this time the mood was not one of wonder or curiosity. Fear now walked between the seats, whispering quiet warnings into the minds of the powerful. What had started as fascination was now shifting into something darker. The failed experiments, the mental crashes, the failed attempts to copy human strength had shaken many leaders. These failures were not seen as the weakness of the researchers, but as proof that humans were made of something that could not be recreated. A voice from the metallic-cloaked Venari rose during the first hour of the meeting. This species had no eyes but felt every pulse in the room. They spoke without anger, but with deep concern. If they cannot be copied, then they must be contained. If they grow unchecked, we may lose balance across the core worlds. Another delegate supported this warning. The humans grow quickly. They adapt faster than prediction. Their bodies allow connection. Their minds create unity, and their spirits do not tire. One tall being from the Zarn colonies moved forward with slow, graceful steps. His kind lived for thousands of years, but reproduced only once every century. He looked at the gathered crowd with deep wisdom in his glowing blue face. I do not fear their strength, but I fear what that strength will cause in the weak hearts filled with envy, hands reaching for something they do not understand. At that moment, the debate changed. It was no longer about understanding humans. It was now about control, defense, and preparation. A proposal was made to limit human presence in high population sectors to keep them out of critical roles, to study their behavior under isolation. Tom stood before the council once more. He looked around not with anger, but with a quiet sadness. He knew what was happening. He had seen this path before on Earth, when fear had turned friend into enemy. Spoke slowly with no defense in his voice. You fear what we are not, because we attack, but because we survive. You fear that we can love more often, grow closer without damage, connect faster and deeper. You fear our ability to continue when others would break. He paused, looking at the walls, the lights, the banners of peace. You studied our biology, but you missed our truth. We do not mate every day because we must. We can because we heal fast. We endure pain. We rebuild joy. That is not a threat. It is a gift. Some council members listened with care, but others had already made up their minds. Outside the chamber, plans were moving in shadows. Secret meetings between powerful species whispered of walls to be built around human colonies, of ships to patrol their movement, of laws to control their growth. Inside hidden chambers, groups met to discuss stronger actions. They believed that if they waited too long, humans would take root in every sector and become the center of influence without lifting a single weapon. On the lower decks of the station, a small group of humans began to notice the changes. They saw how alien traders stopped speaking, how patrols followed them more often, how certain doors no longer opened with their clearance. A human technician named Alex sat with his partner Mara inside the quiet garden dome. They spoke in low voices, unsure of what was coming. Have we done something wrong? She asked, looking at the stars. No, Alex replied, we did something too right. Back in his private quarters, Linek, the original researcher, stared at the ceiling, thinking hard. He had brought the truth into the light without knowing what it would awaken. He pulled out his data tablet, opened a fresh page, and wrote a message to the council chair. Humans must not be feared for their biology, but understood for their meaning. Their strength is not in the body alone, but in the way they connect their will to survive with the will to share. The message was marked unread. In the outer ring of the station, 2 ships quietly prepared for launch. They carried unknown cargo and passengers without clear registration. Their flight paths pointed toward nearby human settlements. The danger was no longer hidden. In a dark meeting hall, one leader from the Silent Worlds gave his final words before signing the emergency order. We cannot allow a species to spread that never stops, that never bends, that never fears the act of becoming one with another. We must act not because they are enemies, but because we do not know how to become like them. The order was signed. Tom received a notice from the council. A meeting had been delayed indefinitely. No reason was given. No explanation offered. He looked out through the glass wall into the stars, trying to feel something beyond the cold, quiet truth. This was the cost of being human in a galaxy that feared anything without limits. And somewhere deep within the station walls, a silent voice spoke through a hidden comm system, warning a group of humans to prepare to leave, prepare to protect, prepare for what was coming. Acceptance and warning alarms did not ring, but every human on the Galactic Council station felt the shift. It moved through the air like invisible heat. Instructions became shorter, patrols followed closer. Conversations ended the moment humans entered a room. Alex and Mara were the first to disappear. Their quarters were found empty, without damage, without signs of struggle, only silence. The garden dome where they once sat had been locked by new protocols. Tom received a restricted message from an old friend inside the research sector. The words were short and heavy. You are not safe here anymore. They do not understand what you are. They never will. He closed the message and stood by the window, watching ships move like tiny sparks beyond the curve of the station. The galaxy outside still held peace on the surface, but something inside had begun to turn. Linek watched as reports were erased from public archives. Charts about human biology were taken down, research access blocked, field logs written with softer words. The truth was being buried under fear. In a hidden corner of the station, a group of delegates met in secret to vote on a quiet ban. It was not official, not recorded, not debated in open council, but its power was real. Human influence was to be reduced. Without conflict, without attention, without blame, a plan was formed to move humans off key stations into isolated roles far from decision centers. But before the plan began, something unexpected happened. Ed Lenak sent a public report to every delegate, to every research leader, to every academic center across 5 sectors. The message held nothing but observation data, witness logs, natural biological facts. It ended with one sentence: fear of what we do not understand has destroyed more worlds than truth ever has. The report spread faster than expected. Students, scientists, independent thinkers began asking questions. Why should humans be pushed away? What had they done except survive and connect and build where others gave up on the outer decks? Tom met with a small group of human workers, engineers, nurses, translators. They stood close together, not with panic, but with a calm built from shared experience. One asked, "What do we do now?" Tom answered, "We do what we always do. We keep going." Inside the command hub, the secret plan began to weaken. Some members started to withdraw support. Others felt shame without knowing why. Some feared they had judged too quickly. The council chair called for a final public hearing, not to punish, not to accuse, but to understand. For the first time in many cycles, the hall was full again. Delegates returned. Faces looked serious, but open. Tom walked to the center without notes, without shield, without fear. He spoke clearly, not with pride, but with truth. We never claimed to be stronger. We never claimed to be better. We are what nature made us: able to connect, able to bond, able to recover, able to continue again and again. Not because we must, but because we choose. He turned slowly, eyes meeting every face around him. Study our bodies, but do not see our hearts. We love fast, not because we are careless, but because we value time. We heal fast, not because we feel less, but because we carry more. He paused, then finished, "Do not fear what you do not carry. Learn from it, grow with it. Let it show you something you never saw in yourselves." The hall was quiet. No one clapped. No one moved, but the silence was different now. After the hearing, the motion to isolate humans was withdrawn. The secret ships were recalled. The shadow orders canceled. In the days that followed, humans were allowed to continue their work, allowed to walk freely, allowed to stay. Lenak was invited to speak on 10 worlds, sharing what he had learned about human biology and human choice. He spoke not of science alone, but of what it meant to feel and still move forward, what it meant to be broken and still bond, what it meant to live each day with hope. Tom stood again by the window. 1 cycle later, he watched a new ship depart, carrying humans and aliens, together on a joint mission to a distant star. The galaxy had not changed completely, but something had shifted, not in law, not in power and understanding. And deep inside the ancient memory core of the station, a new entry was: log species, classification, human trait, endurance, emotional and physical status, dangerous only to those who fear connection. File ended with one line written by an unknown author: "They can love every day, they can fall every day, they can rise every day, and they do." The end.